All right. So right now, let's take a look at Walmart. I know the entire market has had these crazy moves and, into the FOMC where the Fed has just now paused. Like, that's insane, right? So many people might be thinking that the market could continue, or many people also might be thinking, oh, it's overbought. Let's take a look at Walmart right now and see if this could be a trade that we would want to take. As you can see, I have some supply and demand zones where there's low volume, and I'm just basically just using the volume profile over here to verify where I can see the low volume at, right? Just to validate me. And but this is on the weekly, so these are some pretty long out swings. Let's look more recent and see how we would want to trade Walmart. First thing I'm gonna do, if we come from the weekly here, okay, I want to take a look at these two candles. First, I'm gonna delete all these all my zones, so it's nice and clean, okay. And I'll even turn off the volume profile. That's fine. I want it to be pretty clean here. Okay, let's take a look at this right here. We're going to take a look at these three candles. Okay, if you can see, let me get an arrow here. If you can see this candle here, okay, this candle had elevated volume. Okay, so we were passing through some type of zone where there was sellers, or some type of area where there was a lot of fighting. Okay, it had elevating volume. So there's a couple places that we can see. We can see at 150, and I'm just using psychological levels, okay, because those are very easy, and I try to keep it very simple in the trading, right? So we have 150 here, and we're actually approaching 155. So we didn't get to 155 yet on this candle, but we were approaching it, right? And we'll talk about that 155 later. But let's talk about why 150 is more important for now, because today hasn't closed. Okay, if we get the volume, or sorry, this is actually on the weekly. So if this week closes with less volume on 155 here, we'll talk about that. But right now we'll talk about why 150 would be where you'd want to enter for your puts if you decided that you wanted to go short on Walmart, because at the end of the day, we're all talking about buys here. Some people are thinking about continuation. Some people talk about going short. If you're going short, this is what I would look for. I would look for this 150 break. Okay, I'd wait for the weekly to close below 150, a weekly candle to close below it. Okay, and then possibly a retest. If sometimes things don't retest, right? So you could take a small position or half your position size on the break and close under 150, and then you could take the rest on the retest. Okay, or if you see increasing volume away from the 150, you can just go ahead and add the rest of the position. But right now, this 150 level is pretty important. Okay, as you can see, not all the candles are closing above here, right? This actually represents to me that there's very low volume here. So there's a huge imbalance of sellers here. Okay, or there's a huge imbalance of buyers, because we have ran out of buyers 100% up here. Okay, now that doesn't mean that buyers can't come in. That's why I'm saying if we were going to talk about a bull thesis, that's a different story. But that doesn't mean buyers can't come in. But for now, there is very little volume here. And let's verify that with the volume profile. As you can see, volume for sure is dropping off here. Okay, and if we were going to have a bull thesis, what we want to see is we want to see it hang out, right? And then volume starting to come in, and we're starting to hang out above these levels, right? Then we could play the break of structure, etc., etc. But for now, there's a very low volume up here. So yes, this is where you would want to enter for puts. Okay, this is ultimately where you'd get the best entry or the best risk to reward. But if you want to play it safer, you want to get more confirmation, right, we're going to go for that 150 break for sure. Okay, just because that in this run here, okay, that's where we're going to have the most Or let's look at the Fibonacci. What is that again on the Fibonacci? I think that's, I can't even see. Yeah, that's almost, well, that's like 60% or 60 or 70%, but that's where I would want the puts to be entered, and is around this break here. Okay, 150 break. And if you want to just go ahead and with, you've got conviction, that's fine. Go ahead and get them and have your stop loss to be if you get a candle close above this high volume, right? Or the absolute, which would be 160. If you have a candle close above 160 on the weekly, it depends on what you're swinging, right? If you're going to do a daily swing, if you're going to do a weekly chart swing, have your candle close above 160, right? Because 160 is where we have not beat 160 for sure. We've gotten to 158.62. We might even beat 158.62 and go to 159, but we have not gone to 160. I like psychological levels, as you can see. I think they're much, much better than just doing a line and saying, oh, 147.16, because, you can always move your mouse a little bit, but psychological levels really help us out here. Okay, so I say if we get a close above 160, get stopped out. But because we have all the market that's overbought right now, or quote-unquote overbought, right? And there's actually, if you look at the options chain, okay, look at the top options here, okay? One of the top total, well, let's look here. Position increase. The top one is 430 puts, right? And that's still a lot of open positions on that. We've got a lot of puts here, okay? And same thing with VIX calls. So a lot of people are betting for the market to come down, and there are some that, lower down here, SPY 440 calls, but they're not as well positioned as the puts here, okay? And if actually the total volume, SPY, there's more puts total than calls. Okay, if the number's over 1 here, if it's over the number 1, there's more puts. If it's under the number 1, there's more calls. There is more puts position right now than calls on SPY. And right now on VIX, there is way, way, way more calls positioned than puts. So overall, the market is looking bearish, 100%. We could just see that by the options chain. But that doesn't mean that we should just jump in, right? We want to wait for a break. And essentially that break to me is going to be that 150 level. You can even try 155. 155 is good too. But for sure, if you're going to just take like a small swing, I'd go from 155 to 150. That could be like, that could be a good gain. But if the real swing, you really want to play the puts and possibly get it down to this demand over here. This demand was like the 130 level, or from 135 to around 115 or something like that. If you really want to get it down to there, I'd wait for that 150 break. Okay, that's all I have today. And we can always verify that with the volume profile, guys. Volume profile is such a great tool. Remember that. Okay, volume profile is saying we really do not have much volume in this area here. Okay, we've got some volume coming in here at 110, all around the $100 zone. We've got some volume coming in there, so we can assume there would be some fighting there. So let's not worry about that yet. I want to see where would be the best exit for the puts, where sellers are going to be imbalanced. We've sold too much, and that's going to be in this low volume zone here historically, from 135 to around 115. So anywhere between that, I'd probably go for like 130 or 120 or something like that, and that'll be a good exit if you took from 150 to 130. I think that's a great trade. Okay. Once again, trading options is extremely risky. The market is risky, okay? And none of this is financial advice, all right? Thanks for watching. Have a good day.